And you're live on Dead Radio.
Yo, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dead Radio with your main man, Bangy is Dead. You already know, got a special guest. We only deal with special guests. Today I've got a homie, actually done this before. Just didn't go how it was supposed to go. But we're back here again on the season. I had to get him back because it was a really, really good story. It really communicates to me in such a way. I don't even know how to describe it because it's very different. And it's political, but political in an art sense, which is something that isn't really done in today's age. I think, anyway, we'll talk about what I think. But yeah, what's good, brother? How you doing?
Second time lucky, bro.
Yeah, second time lucky. I don't introduce my guests. They introduce themselves. So yeah, tell us your name and what you do.
All right, fresh. So my name is Sindiso Nyoni, also known as Riot, and I'm an independent graphic artist.
Dope.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, man.
Word.
Long time coming. I mean, the last episode, sound wasn't great because we're shooting in the
forgotten what we touched on, 'cause I think I rambled.
We didn't actually ramble, so we spoke about the story, how you actually ended up becoming an independent artist, because obviously before you became an independent artist, you were someone before that, job-wise, you know what I mean? Yeah. And now here you are, you're at this place in time, and so we just spoke about basically that journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, where are you from?
A long journey.
Yeah, extremely long journey.
So my origins, I'm born and raised in Bulawayo,
Okay.
Zimbabwe. I moved to Johannesburg in 2005
Okay.
to study graphic design.
Okay. Why graphic design?
So graphic design I think it's something that I had in me all my life, because I started drawing at age 4.
Okay.
So art was always something so I come from a big family, first of all. We're 8 of us.
Okay.
And I'm like the 7th.
Okay.
So second last born. So, growing up in Zim in the early 90s, late 80s, we were bombarded with a lot of pop culture.
Yes.
So we had a lot of stuff coming in. So I was
taking that in.
Yeah, I was taking all of that in. So for me to start drawing at age 4, it was because I was already into comic books, like music. I was already listening to hip hop. Can you believe at that time? Because you got older brothers, So a lot of that stuff was trickling down, So pop culture was a big thing, Learning how to draw from memory.
Okay.
So it was before the VCR to record. So I used to watch what I'm seeing on TV and then go back.
Dope.
So that's how I learned how to draw.
Dope.
But also from trying to emulate my older brother.
Okay.
So we're 5 years apart. So for him, naturally, at that age, at that stage, when I'm 4, he's like 9.
Yeah.
He already knows how to. But I'm not understanding that why can he do that
and you can't.
So I started.
You wanted to know that.
Yeah, I wanted to know. So I wasn't aware that it was a talent I already had.
Okay.
I think I just had to tap into it.
Right, that's so crazy.
So very early. So I'm not saying we didn't have, but I mean, imagine just being uprooted and put in a place amongst people who are very privileged.
Right.
And you just trying to get by.
Would you say that was character building though?
It was. Because I think I developed that sort of thick skin that I've carried throughout to today.
Right.
In the sense that I learned how not to compromise myself.
Okay.
For any kind of circumstance. I can be in a different kind of surrounding, but I think I need to ground myself and develop that thick skin to be able to survive.
Okay.
I think that's also how I was able to leave Zim at age 20.
Okay.
And move to Joburg, work as a barman, and freelance to send myself through school.
So now,
the
freelancing thing, obviously it's through being an artist and you're sketching and all these things, right?
Yeah.
Is this something you were honing while you were in high school? Like, it is something that you were working and you were getting better at, and you were refining like your the pieces of yourself.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I said, like with graphic design, it's something that I was always doing, but I just wasn't aware of
That you were
it.
doing,
I
right.
didn't know the terminology, and whatnot. I just knew that, okay, I've been drawing since age 4. I started my first comic book when I was like 10.
Crazy.
But it's because I was consuming a lot of like Marvel comics and your DC stuff, and all these stories were like, okay, white, so Superman is white, Batman is white, all these heroes were like
White.
predominantly white guys, what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I was like, okay, not that there weren't any black characters, but I was like, what if I created my own
At the age of
character?
10.
Yeah.
So at the age of 10, you've already noticed the racial indifferences.
No, most
and
definitely. Even
differences.
earlier before that, because
That's insane.
I think I discovered, like at age 9, I was already discovering stuff like the Black Panther movement.
Why do you think that's the case? Like, do you think it's the case because of being in Zim? Or do you think that's the case because of
In
what
a
you're
way-
consuming?
In a way, both. Because I remember growing up in Zim, I don't know if you're familiar with the history of
I am.
the factions. So
Yeah.
you've got your Ndebele and you've got your Shona.
Uh-huh.
And so Zim is a predominantly Shona
Yes.
country, what
Yes.
I'm saying? Because we ended up there because of a 19th century Zulu migration.
Right.
That's how the Ndebele people ended up. So we've always been the minority there.
Okay.
And we've experienced
Indifferences.
exactly,
Right.
there's some massacres that went down in
Right.
the early 80s that are still a taboo topic to this day.
Okay.
So I grew up in that era, in that time.
So you'd already been able to define.
Who's for me and who's not for me,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And obviously these are things that my mother would tell me. And also because we had members in our family who went through these things. I've got an uncle who's got some hectic PTSD from what happened during that time,
Crazy.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was like first-hand experience of people who've actually gone through it, and also just growing up as a Ndebele boy in a country where you're always going to feel like, now you guys are the second,
Right.
like you the minority, and you're made to feel it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like how, obviously I come to South Africa, apartheid is something that was, but you still
still feel it,
You
yeah.
still feel it to this day. So I was growing up already in that kind of like mindset.
Crazy.
And I think because I used to read a lot, and reading a lot informed my
You're sketching.
sketching, you know what I'm saying? Because you're very inquisitive, you're a very curious kid, you know what I'm saying? You're bombarded with a lot of pop culture. So it's like you've got all this stuff at your disposal, you know what I'm saying? So with me growing up, like in the early 90s, going to the library was cool.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was a cool thing that kids would do. And that's what I used to do. So it's like at the library, that's where I would find all the stuff that I was like consuming, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And through all of that, I came across stuff that resonated with me.
Okay.
Like I was reading about black consciousness. I was like, hey, I'm cool. I like what this Biko guy is saying.
Right.
I like what he's about.
Makes
What's happening
sense.
across the border in South Africa. And
Right.
you read about that, you know what I'm saying? Then you find out, you stumble upon stuff like the Black Conscious, Malcolm X, you know what I'm saying? And with the Black Panther stuff in particular, there's this guy called Emory Douglas.
Okay.
He was doing he did the Black Panther logo.
Yeah.
He did all their illustrations, their posters and whatnot. I looked at his stuff, I was like, hey man, this is something I wanna
Right.
do. I didn't know that it was gonna take me until my 20s to actually start doing that kind of work. But I guess it was
It was
ingrained
sitting.
from that time, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it was like a whole journey.
So you make this comic, and obviously I'm assuming the star is a black superhero.
The whole cast, the whole lineup is black. I based it on my siblings.
Crazy.
So my younger siblings and my younger cousin, so I made them, my younger brother, I made him the hero, and I made my cousin the villain.
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And then my niece is also in, because me and my niece are the same age. So, like we grew up all like at the same time. And some of my siblings are in there as characters. So it was basically it was more like a joke. Because I was, growing up, I was the kind of sibling who would give everybody nicknames. Because of my creativity, I was always telling stories.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Creating scenarios and whatnot. And, it was just something that was always there.
Right.
So I think when creating this comic, obviously it had a whole lot of vernacular lingo in there, like the way we spoke.
Do you still have it? Or you'll have to look for it.
I don't have it because there's this girl.
Right.
You see, when I was younger. A girl I was into.
And you gifted
I
her.
gave her everything.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So I don't know if she's watching this or if she's aware. She still has them.
It's an archive.
Yeah, but
She probably does it because she doesn't know how special it is.
Like this dates back to probably even. Now you were born by then, but 1994.
Yeah, crazy.
So that's when I was like 10 years old, and creating these comics. And yeah, so basically the stories were just like, it was a very Bulawayo based superhero.
Right.
So like the city, the settings, the food, the
Everything
language,
about
everything about it was local.
Okay, cool. So let's fast forward. I don't really go through the whole high school thing. Let's fast forward to you coming to South Africa now.
But
What's
you see,
the reason?
in the high school, that's what prompted me to come to South Africa.
Why?
Because when I was about 16, this lady from New York,
Yeah.
she relocated to Zim. In fact, she retired in Zim, and she decided to start teaching art. She was a retired graphic designer from New York.
Okay.
So she came to teach art at our school, and then she saw my work. She was like, "Yo, man, like, you've got something here. What are you planning to do with this?" And growing up in Zim, so Zim, I don't know if you know, our education system is very, like, it once upon a time was
Advanced.
probably the most advanced in the continent. I don't know how it is now. I've just lost track. But their kids are pushed to become engineers, lawyers, those credible
teachers,
professions.
Yes.
So as an artist,
you overlooked.
Yeah.
So it's basically like how South Africa was before the creative boom.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But much worse because in Zim it's like so you see like how uncomfortable it was at that private school I went to.
Yeah.
Everybody else is, being groomed to become engineers and whatnot.
Yes.
And I'm into this art thing. And like, this guy is going to become a cartoonist in the Nyonko newspaper. And take in mind, being a cartoonist in Zim is not like you're Zapiro.
Right, it's not like a job.
No, it's like this guy's a cartoonist in the Chronicle. I don't know what newspapers they have there that's like, so it wasn't a thing. So at that time, I was just like, yo, man, I've got this thing that I really, really am into.
So you did it with no compass? So you're just doing because you really liked it?
I just really liked it. And I was lucky because in high school also, that's what opened up the doors to where I'm at now, because there was that art teacher.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, cool. I think you should become a graphic designer. Go into that. I'm like, what's that? Then that's when she schooled me. She taught me, she gave me all the terminology. She introduced me to other designers who were like across the border and whatnot that would come and talk to me. And then I was like, oh, I've actually been doing this all along. I just didn't know what it was called.
Job.
And it's a real job, So I started looking into that and whatnot. But also, before that, prior to that, I think everybody has a English teacher story.
You said like an English teacher that pushes you.
Yeah, an English teacher who's been that person who, gave you some like
enlightenment, like
it's like it's a common thing, like, oh, my English teacher came. So I had one of those, and he was a poet.
Yeah.
Like a hardcore hippie. Like his outlook on life is also the way I also carry. I borrowed a lot of things from his philosophies and whatnot.
So he's very free. He's a free guy.
Very free. Like he was good at what he like poetry and whatnot. He was, and he was one of those teachers that I would go to his classes and I'm like, yo, I'm actually looking forward to what he's gonna
say today,
what James is gonna drop and whatnot.
Dope.
And he was writing books. He used to write books, poetry books and whatnot. And then I think the one time, because I was just like that, I was that kid in the back of the class who would like caricature everybody and pass it around and whatnot. So I caricatured him. And then he saw it and he was like, oh, man, like this is
good.
This is good. Then after class, he calls me, like, hey, man, I'm writing a book and I want you to do the cover for it.
Oh, crazy.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I could do that. I'm like, no, I'm going to pay you for it. I'm like, you're going to pay me for it? I just do that. Because in my head, drawing was like
it's fun.
My pastime.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm going to pay you for it. I'm starting up a company and I want you to create the logo as well.
Crazy.
So I created the logo, did the book cover, and I even have my, 15 minutes or 5 minutes of fame because he had a book launch at what do you call it?
It's like, yeah, this is the guy that made
And he was
the
like,
first-
this is the guy that, you know,
made
and
the
I was
cover.
like, I didn't know how to.
So that's your
behave.
first. So that was your first reference
Yeah.
of working
Yeah. First
as an
reference of-
artist.
As an artist, you know. But yeah. But before that I was hustling before because I used to draw stuff for other kids and make them pay. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been
Right. So that's
and
your
we
first.
get that from my mom because she's a hustler, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
insane. That's
So
so
it's
insane.
things that were just happening
Right.
the whole time, you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
So,
okay.
but in terms of like a proper, I don't know if you could call it a big break.
Yeah,
But I
it
guess,
is.
yeah.
Because that's your first point of reference of
Yeah.
not necessarily
was
wearing a
published.
tie or wearing a
Yeah.
suit, but wearing a tie and wearing a suit.
Yeah, so I was published at like age 17, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And like this guy's book, like I've done the logo, I open it up. You know, it was that feeling of you open up the book and you check the whatever,
Credits.
the credits.
That's
and I'm
me.
like,
That's my
me,
name.
You know what I'm saying? You know? And so that happened. And then, you know, the art teacher was also like pushing me, saying, yeah, you need to do this and try
Sure.
this out, you know.
So they almost gave you no choice but to do it.
Yeah. So the challenge now was explaining to my old man,
Right.
who's very conservative and very,
Conventional.
yeah, you know, it's
That's
like,
one way of doing it.
yeah. So I was very lucky that throughout my years, my mother saw, okay, this guy is talented. And she obviously picked it up a long time ago that when everybody's going this way, I'm going that way.
Right.
Like in anything and everything, you know what I'm saying? She's like, no, my kid is different. Like I've got 8 kids, but this one,
I don't know how, but he's
this one
definitely
is
not
different.
like all of them.
He's
Right.
definitely not like all of them, you know what I'm saying? So she picked that up early and she nurtured it.
Okay.
She wasn't the kind of parent who was like, yeah, no, but why are you
Why are you always doing that?
always doing this? She was like, yo, she would nurture, like she was like supportive of that, like from the get-go, you know.
Insane.
The tricky person was my old man
Right.
because
He wasn't seeing things like
he
that.
wasn't seeing things. So the challenge was convincing him that, look, man, there's a career in this thing.
There's money.
There's money in this thing, and I think I've got a good shot at this thing because I'm pretty good at this thing.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't buying it. So I think because the Zim education system that I wrote, we did like this Cambridge system where I could actually work, if with good scores, I could get into any South African university
Okay.
at the age of 17. I didn't have to do my matric. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's how advanced the
The curriculum is.
Yeah. So I did that thing. I was like, look, they're introducing this thing. Obviously, it cost a lot, you know what I'm saying? But it was like most private schools had that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, man, look, I really want to go and do this design thing. So instead of you having to pay my fees until I do matric and whatnot, I can actually do it in 1 year.
So take that money
Take
that
that
you
money that you're going to pay,
put it in
let's
this
put it
thing.
into this. He's like, nah, you're not going to be ready. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready. You need to be at the right age for university and whatnot. Then I'm like, no, these exams that
Prepare
I
me.
hold prepare you. I can be accepted at any South African university with these scores. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't buying it. Because the thing is with these things, it was an option. You could do that, the half thing,
Or
and
go
if
the
you want to
normal
go to university, or you could just do it and then do another year of high school.
Okay.
It was up to you.
Okay.
Either way,
You're
with
still
good scores,
advanced.
you're still advanced. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? So he was like, no. So I did a second year of high school.
Okay.
Or I did my matric year of high school.
Yeah.
I didn't need to, you know. And then after that was done, I'm like, okay, cool. I've got good scores. I'm like, let's do this art thing, you know. He's like, nah. Like, why can't you just be like other kids and go do and go enroll for a proper degree? This
Sure.
art thing is not. So I sat at home for 2 years. I took 2 gap years after high school.
What? What are you doing?
What was I doing?
Just chilling,
I was
laying
chilling.
around.
I was chilling, bro. Because
Obviously sketching here and there.
no, sketching here and there. I actually had a clothing line that time I had a skating clothing line that I used to sketch
Do you
at.
think that 2-year gap year allowed you to refine your sketching though? Like to
It
create
did.
your
It did in a
art?
way.
Because you know you have a distinctive way of, you know, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
no.
every artist knows.
Yeah, but what I was doing back then is completely worlds apart to what I'm doing
Of
now.
course, but
you know.
you still obviously, I feel like even if, let's say how I was making clothes 10 years ago
Yeah.
or 5 years ago and how I make clothes now, it's completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
But to a certain degree, there's
Okay, but I get what you're saying.
similarities that I find in it, or there's a
Yeah.
train of thought
Yeah.
that I used back then.
Back then.
So now what I'm personally trying to hone, like currently in my life, is as much as money is needed to refine the product, but I'm trying to move my mindset from producing or ideation for money.
Okay, cool.
Because my best ideas
Because if that's the drive,
came
then things fall off. You know?
100%.
Yeah.
My best ideas came from when I wasn't doing it for money.
That's true, because I think if we're going to fast forward to me currently now,
Yeah.
most of my biggest gigs have come from my self-initiated projects.
Right.
Like stuff that I just did without a brief, and then it got picked up. They were like, yo man, can you do something like that
This.
thing? I was like, oh, that was a self-initiated project.
I was just bored.
But then you have like a big brand saying, hey, we're going to pay you a lot of money
To
to
just do-
recreate something similar. I'm like, you see, so I get what you're saying.
So
In
do
that
you think
sense.
there's anything from the 2-year gap year that kind of trickled down into maybe your first year?
I think in the sense that it gave me more perspective. I think if I had, maybe let me say if it was a blessing in disguise.
Okay.
Because I think maybe if I'd gone off so quickly, I wouldn't have discovered the things that I discovered in those 2 years.
Yes.
Chilling, you
Okay,
know?
okay.
Because not that I was just chilling doing nothing, but in those 2 years I went and I did I was doing IT
Okay.
for like a year.
I'm sure you hated it.
You know, I hated it. You know,
'Cause
but
completely opposite.
But then again, I was moving into a digital profession.
Right. So you had to
So I
understand.
needed. So you need to think that this was years ago, before
IT's
computers.
IT now.
Computers in the homes was a
Was a
it
thing.
it was just for the rich kids. Like I
Right.
didn't grow up with a computer and whatnot. But then I decided to go and do this IT course just to while up the time. But I didn't realize that I was actually setting myself up for.
You're refining yourself.
You know what I'm saying? I was familiarizing
what
with
I
something
mean.
that was
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be a tool
yeah,
for
yeah.
me,
Yeah.
you know, in the long run. So I did IT for a year, and then did that. It was like a certificate thing, you know. It was like, I think at that time, I think I probably got more joy from the fact that I was learning with girls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I was coming from a Catholic all-boys school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like, oh, nah,
Now there's girls.
let's go, you know. So I think that was the one thing. At that time, I thought I was, but actually, I was actually planting that, you know, seed and preparing myself
Right.
for later. So that was the first year. So I thought I was just going to take one gap year to get my old man to get his act together and whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
But then he was now wanting to send me off to some rural university, you know, because he
In
had
Zim.
connections there in Zim. And, you know, a rural university in Zim is
It's not the one.
it's not the one, bro. Just being in Zim
In
at
terms
that
of
time.
competing. Yeah.
Just being in Zim at that time when everything is crumbling, like it was just, you know. And so
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to understand something because I talked to like a couple of people like from Zim, right? And many of them will always be like, yeah, when Zim was crumbling, it was starting to look like how South Africa is looking right now, right?
oh
Um,
yeah, well yeah, we saw some stuff.
Because you guys
that's
saw it
similar.
firsthand, like you guys
Yeah.
literally saw. It's like dismantling a toy. You
Yeah.
guys saw the toy dismantling itself.
Yeah, there are some
slowly.
similarities.
There's
like,
certain things that was not there. The service
Yeah.
delivery was a bit more. So I wanna know something. Like when you say Zim crumbling at that age, can you remember if you could see it as well? That things are not the same here. There's
yeah, no,
certain
definitely.
things that are.
No, definitely. definitely
I gotta
definitely.
leave.
I mean, I was 18 at the time, you know.
Yeah.
But it's Zim started crumbling way before that.
Okay.
So like when I was about, you could say maybe about 15.
Okay.
So you're 1999. That's when we were now actually seeing that, oh, this is not looking. Because, you know, the early 90s, we were like the breadbasket of Africa.
Yes.
Like our education system was like
Yes.
this. Like for me to be exposed to such pop culture at that time, you know what I'm saying? It was because the economy was so good. We were rich in a lot of things, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? I think Zim was probably one of the first African countries to have ATMs.
Okay.
You know what I'm
okay,
saying? So
okay.
that's where we were at, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then obviously power and greed and
Yes.
corruption.
Messed
But
it
this
up.
is not something that happened then in the 90s. I was just more aware of it as a teenager that, okay, this is actually what my mom has been talking about. This is what is happening. This is what I'm experiencing. I saw it happen live. You know what I'm saying? But this is something that was already at that time. I think we got our independence in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
So it was already 19 years in, because that looting and dictatorship and all, it started as soon as he got into power.
Right.
You know.
But the repercussions only happened in the later stage.
Yeah, when the rest of the world was now like, when he was now like denouncing the rest of the world, he was like, you know what, this is my sport. I'll do whatever they want.
I don't need you guys.
I don't need you guys. Then that's when the rest of the world was like, oh, look what's happening in Zim. But we were like, nah, we've been
seeing this.
We've been seeing this, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so it was like, yeah, when you speak about the similarities to what's happening, I've been in South Africa now for, 18 years.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and there's a lot of deja vu.
Right.
There's a lot of,
I know this.
I know this.
Power cuts, I know that.
I'm like, okay, I know where this is headed, but I don't want it to get there, because I've just always felt like South Africa's too big.
Advanced.
It's too big for that kind of thing to happen here.
The same way it happens there.
The way it happened there. You know,
right.
if it is to happen, then
it's going to happen in a different way.
I'm worried of what the repercussions of it. Like I'll sound like a conspiracy theorist or something, but it could lead to some sort of civil war.
No, that's not a conspiracy theory. It's definitely what it would lead to, and I can tell you why.
Because of the
wealth.
The wealth and the size of this place.
Yeah, the inequality.
Exactly.
I mean, we could see now, you know what is happening in Cape Town with the taxi wars, right? I don't think anyone sees it like, maybe there's some people that see it how I see it, right?
Yeah.
How I see it is that like we're having a problem from a society perspective or societal view, right? Where now people gun for any type of destabilization for them to take advantage.
Yeah.
Because the rioting and all that was happening in Cape Town was not solely created by the taxi drivers. They created the initial destabilization. And then everyone else, because they are the less, the ones that have less, right?
Yeah.
They took advantage.
Yeah.
Which basically means if any type of destabilization happens on a national level, right? Like let's say we have a national blackout, right?
Yeah.
Like the grid collapses.
Yeah.
We've already seen that people will take advantage of any situation.
Yeah, we saw
that's a societal problem that we had. 100 in Durban.
Yeah.
It was solely based, and people blame Zuma, this, that. It was not because of that. It was, I think we are going into a nation that looks for loops or gaps, and then we manipulate the gaps.
Yeah.
And that for me is a big problem because of the inequality gap as it stands.
Those who've gone so long without having,
they're going to eat the rich.
You know what I'm saying? It's basically what
they're going to eat the rich.
And yeah, because you remember, like for me, I don't mean to take you to a history lesson, but you know, you had your apartheid, which was a race thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And obviously that happened.
Now it's a class thing.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to keep.
Or you have a spoon, I don't have a spoon. I want a spoon.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, it will sip into so many things. I mean, I've experienced xenophobia all my life here, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You know, and which for me has never made sense.
Okay.
Because it's like, growing up in Zim, I had a lot of homies from South Africa.
Right.
You know, obviously because guys were exiled.
Yeah.
You know, so their families were set up there, you know what I'm saying? I had a lot of homies from all of, like a lot of people, the common thing was people used to go to Zim to learn English. So, you know, I had Angolan friends, you know, Mozambican friends. So for me...
So you guys used to meet people based on those educational factor?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But for me, I grew up not seeing... Okay, obviously there was those factions, you know, in terms of like tribal.
Yeah.
Because I was born into that thing.
Yes.
But then in terms of like national, like I didn't see, we didn't, because we were we welcomed.
Right.
A lot of the African nationals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was only when I moved to the side, then I'm like, hey man, this thing is a problem. But I understand why it's a problem because of the history of this country.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
apartheid just gave birth to all these other things. You know what I'm saying? And
basically manufactured them.
yeah, you see, and with the amount of misinformation that goes on and the lack of education on certain things, obviously things are going to be
Running rampant.
you know what I'm saying?
100%.
So I think that's also why I think I like going back to that point of me discovering Emory Douglas back when I'm 9, but only using art as a tool or as a vehicle to address it. He was addressing racism, and it was only until I moved to the side that I was like, you know what, let me get into activist art.
Right.
Let me create posters.
So you
Let
only
that
did
be
it when
my-
you got this side.
When I got this side. It's something that I was always felt strongly about, you know what I'm saying? But it was only until I, got here, started studying, and got introduced to more, I was like, oh, there's actually guys that are doing what I've always had on my mind.
Right.
And here they are actually like
They're
making
doing
a-
it actively.
actively, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was like, okay, you know what? Because my nature has always been a very, stand for something and not fall for nothing kind of thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's from Malcolm X's quotes, you know what I'm saying? But it's always been like, that if I feel strongly about something, I'm going to be like, okay, no, like I will.
You got to
speak up about
submerge
it.
yourself in it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
not going to change minds overnight or perceptions or whatever, but I'll get a dialogue going. I'll get you to start talking about, okay, and rethinking. I'm like, okay, but why do I hate the Nigerian dude?
Why do
down
I
the
really
road?
hate him?
Why do I hate him? Like, what's, what I'm
Outside
saying?
of what I'm being told.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of thing. And I think it's also something that if you've noticed in a lot of my work, I will always try and sip in some sort of social commentary
Right.
or have something to say, because I've always felt that, it's cool to have this set of skills and this talent and be able to create such dope stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what are you actually doing with it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
What are you actively doing?
What are you actually doing?
Strike some change. Or
You know what I'm saying? And
in
I think
society.
it's because I've always been very and these are all things that I was not aware of, but in my subconscious, like I was this person who was actually very human centered. Like I was concerned about the human experience.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's no wonder I was into Michael Jackson.
Right.
Growing up, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, he's part of the reason I started drawing, because I'll check him out and then I'll go back and try and
So,
redraw Michael Jackson
that's insane.
or Diego Maradona. Those are like my idols. growing up.
Right.
But I mean, you see, he was like a big humanitarian. It's not like something I used to tap into when I was younger because I was too young. But I mean, like, I'm like, okay, but it makes sense that I
Why
would be
you
more
would be
drawn
interested
to
in a
his,
person like that?
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And here I am using the pencil
Right.
and the sketch pad.
So fine.
And what are the tools,
Fast forward. You come to I know we left at a certain part. You're fine. Come to South Africa.
Yeah.
Your dad allows you, I'm assuming.
No, he didn't allow me.
You escaped.
So I took a second gap year.
Yes.
Because he was trying to send me to that rural
Yes.
place. Yes. So what I quickly did was that I went. So back in Zimbabwe, we also had UNISA correspondence
Right.
learning. So there was like a campus in town. I went there. I was like, no, there's no way this dude is going to send me to this place. I went to UNISA. I was like, opened up a prospectus. I'm like, the first degree I saw, I was like, marketing. I'm like, I'm going to do marketing. I enrolled for it. Then I got home. I was like, yo, man, I've enrolled for marketing at UNISA, so you don't need to send me to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, shit was tense, at the time. And then obviously he was like,
Okay.
then he's like, but okay, marketing.
Marketing.
Okay, it's got accounting in there. It's got like
It's
business
better than the
studies,
sketching, boss.
It's better than the sketches,
Yeah.
And I hated it.
You hated marketing.
Hated it.
How long did you do it for?
Less than a year. Because
You hated it.
I hated it, man. But again, a blessing in disguise, because I picked up things in there that would actually help me later on.
Yeah,
In
celebrity.
my independence.
Yeah.
Starting up my own thing and being a freelance,
Sure.
designer. So there's certain things that I learned from there.
Yeah.
That I probably carried on to here.
Mm-hmm.
So doing that marketing thing for a year, during that time, my mother comes to me. She can see obviously that I'm frustrated. She's like, yo, man, I know you really want to do this art thing. Like, I can see it's eating away at you. I was losing weight even.
Damn.
I was skinny as, I don't know, like.
Damn, you hated
I was
it,
stressed
hated
out.
it.
I was stressed, because, you got your country's crumbling.
Now you started
You're
this thing in the
stuck,
country
you know.
that you don't
All your
like.
peers, they've all left. They were all in Grahamstown, UCT.
Conte, you went to a private school.
Yeah.
They're definitely going.
So it's like they all left after high school, you know what I mean? I was stuck back home. And then she was like, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to raise your first year's tuition. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to. And the thing, that's my mom. She's like, for her, impossible is nothing.
Okay.
She didn't get to have an education because back in the days, you know, the way things were set up. But she's always believed in her hands.
Okay.
She's like, if you're able-bodied and you're able to use your hands,
you can do it.
You can do anything.
Right.
By the end of that year, she had raised my first year's tuition. We secretly came to South Africa for me to have the entrance test, entrance exam at BTech, you know, and they accepted me on the spot.
Insane.
Yeah, they accepted me on the spot. They were like, yo, man, we know you have to go back to Zim and apply for your study permit and whatnot. We know that can take a while, but normally we send out letters, you know, in September, you know, to say, we're accepting you now. And also they obviously could see that, okay, man's got skills.
Yeah, of
we
course.
want him to come through.
You want him to have a degree from
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they were like, we're accepting you on the spot, so just go do what you need to do, and we'll see you next year. So keep in mind, my family doesn't know, especially my pops.
Yeah.
You know. So
you're in.
I'm in. So now the thing is like, let's raise this tuition. Let's raise this money. Because, you know, with foreign students, you have to pay your fees up front.
Yeah.
It's pretty harsh. So obviously I'm letting my mom know she's not familiar with all this. She's like, just tell me what you need. How much is needed? Okay, we're going to raise it. You know.
Yeah.
And she was doing catering at the time. You know, she was doing everything, you know, like. And she managed to raise it. And by the end of that year, she gave me a stack of notes like this. She was like, okay, bro.
That's you.
That's you. Here's your bus ticket. You know, by that time, we're now telling everybody. I'm like, yo, man.
But it's done.
It's done. You know. Obviously, my old man is like.
He's pissed.
He's pissed, you know.
You guys did this behind my back. I'm pissed.
You know?
Yeah.
But we're gone. Like, my mom's done it. You know what I'm saying? But she's like, when you get to Joburg, man.
Focus. Don't
Dude,
get lost in the lights.
Yeah.
Boss.
And I focused. Because the thing is.
You had no choice but to, though.
I didn't have a choice. The thing is, when you're leaving the mess that I was Zim.
Chance of you going back.
No ways I was turning back. I was
bro,
like, there's nothing for me here. I can't. Like,
make it or break it.
It's do or die.
Yeah.
Do or die. So I came here. I was studying full time. And I was working as a barman.
Okay.
And from working as a barman, I was able to also start freelancing because people would obviously come to the bar and see me doing my assignments during breaks. You know, I'm like, hey, but what are you doing? What are you studying? I'm like, I'm studying design. Oh, I actually have a company that I'm starting up. Can you do my logo? You know, that kind of stuff. So it was like built that momentum from there. But also because I was one of the, you could say one of the top students. In, you at UJ, yeah?
Yeah, I was at UJ.
Yeah. So I was one of
that's where we met.
Yeah,
remember?
exactly. Yeah. I was telling Brother Man, yeah.
That's such a crazy story.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. It's such a crazy story.
So it was like, so in the graphic design department, so what agencies normally do.
So you were that hot that like...
No, I was hot, bro.
like, because I knew you were part of a pattern. I just didn't know you were that hot.
No,
like,
I was...
so they handpicked you like, yo, we need you to come...
Yeah, come in charge and mentor and create this. Yeah.
We'll get to that.
So during studying, so obviously what the lecturers do is they identify cats that they think, okay, this guy can do.
He's got the heat.
He got the heat. He can make it out there. So what agencies do is they come to the universities. They're like, hey,
and they poach.
Do you have anybody who we can? So my drawing lecturer, he was like, yo, man, I've got this friend of mine. He's a writer in advertising. And so, you know, in advertising, the pairing is it's a copywriter with an art director. So your copywriter comes up with the concepts. The art director executes.
Right.
You know. So this guy
it's basically it's like an architect and a construction guy.
Exactly.
Architect draws the plans, the construction executes the
plan.
So
that's the pairing in advertising. So this guy was a freelance copywriter.
Okay.
He came to my lecture. He was like, yo, man, I need somebody who's got skills, like who can execute my ideas and whatnot.
Sure.
And he's like, no, I've got this kid in my class. He's more than capable of, you know,
doing what you need to be done.
Sure. Introduced me to this guy. Yo, we hit it off, man. We started working together, you know. Then that's when I started realizing that, yo, man, I can actually make money from this thing, you know. By the end of that year, I called my mom. I was like, yo, you won't have to worry about anything. I've got this. Focus on my little brother.
Crazy.
Like, I didn't know how it was going to happen.
But you knew
But
that
I
you could
I had
do
foresight, like I could see. So with this guy that I'd, this copywriter guy that I was now freelancing with
Yeah.
while studying, I struck a deal with him. I was like, you okay, you know what? I don't want you to pay me for the stuff that I'll be doing. I just want you to secure I want my fees paid.
Okay.
I've got 3 more years of, this degree. I just want to make sure that
You finish.
I'm good.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, no, it's cool, I know obviously you must have made a lot of
More money,
with-
but you wanted
but for
the
me,
basics to be
I
done.
was just like, you know what, I just need because that was like a big burden.
Weight on your shoulders,
Weight on
yeah,
my
yeah.
shoulders, you know what I'm saying? So if that was at least lightened, I could focus on other things,
Right.
Like maybe I can start, jolling, and doing those things,
Having a bit of fun,
being
you know what I'm saying?
being a student, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'd missed out on that, or I was missing out on that because I'm working at the bar. In fact, I'm doing a class from 8 to 5. I leave school, I go to the bar from like 6 to 3 a.m.
Crazy.
Shit like that, and like I basically didn't have
Anything
going for myself.
You didn't have
Like,
any time.
I didn't have any time, you know what I'm saying? Unless for my Thursdays and Saturdays. Those were my off days, but of which I'm sleeping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how the hustle was. Like it was
It sounds
it's
crazy.
It's something I don't even wish on my worst enemy.
So now, as you're doing this, because I know at some point you moved to Cape Town, right?
My first job.
Your first
So that's
job.
after graduating.
That's after graduating.
Yeah.
Fine. You do this thing, you graduate, and
Yeah.
then do you get poached, or do you get approached, or do you apply?
I actually shot my shot
Okay.
for that Cape Town thing. So at our the end of year exhibition that we have at UJ.
Yes.
So at the
The
third
critique,
year.
yeah.
So at the third year exhibition, so with us at that time, it was your 3 years is your national diploma, and then you can go off and work. But if you want to do the degree, your BTech, you do it another year. I left Zim telling myself I'm going to go get a degree. I'm
Right.
not going to just get a diploma. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So at that third year showcase, the diploma showcase, got my portfolio there. This guy from Ogilvy comes through. He's like, Ogilvy, the ad agency,
of
comes
course.
to me. He's like, yo, man, I'm offering you a job.
Straight up.
Straight up. And my mom was there. I flew my mom over to come and
Oh, you
for the
flew in.
exhibition.
Hey, you're making
man.
money.
Yeah, so I flew in to come and check out the exhibition,
Dope.
And just for her to see that, yo, man,
This is what I'm doing,
You
bro.
know what
This is
I'm
what I'm here.
So, and she's there, and then she already knows my plans, Then I'm like, this guy's offering me a job here, but I want to do my degree. I want
One
to do
extra
my
year,
additional
yeah.
year. And then he comes to my mom and is like, hey, please talk to your boy. Like, here I am. Here's my card. He was like the creative director or something.
I don't need a
or-
CV, nothing.
He was
This
like,
guy's getting a job now.
Yeah, I'm giving him a job now.
Sure.
And then I'm like, ish. I calls my mom. My mom is like, whatever he decides. She's always been like that ride or die. Like she gets it.
I'm not gonna force him. He'll make
She's
the
like,
decision.
whatever he decides,
Sure.
like. And then I'm like to the man, I'm like, yo man, wait for me for a year. And if you really see, in my head, I was like, if you're really serious about
that spot will be open for me.
that spot will be open in a year. So sure enough, he was like, okay, cool, I can respect that, you know what I mean? But this guy leaves Ogilvy the following year. So I found out that he's no longer there, you know what I'm saying?
Now you didn't really
But it's
have your
fine
plan.
because I was doing my BTech, I was still studying,
Yeah.
I was like, how this guy was poaching me, I was gonna bring me on board and then just leave me and then go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it left a very bad taste in my
Yeah, because what
you
the
know.
hell? Who does that?
But also at the same time, while studying, I told myself, there's no ways I'm ever going to go into advertising. I wasn't.
Why?
I didn't like what it stood for
Okay.
based on my own personal, belief systems and whatnot. I'm like, you're persuading people to consume things they don't need. Most of the time to consume things that are bad for them, but you're using that power of persuasion, And I'm like, as artists, we've got so much power.
Yeah.
Like I've got power to persuade you
So
to
much
do
influence and
so
power
much influence.
that you don't really
you know?
actually know.
So I always felt that advertising was not all of it, but the bulk of what I was exposed to. I was like, it's not really in line with,
Right.
But I was like, I'll see what I'll do. Although there was no other way but to get into advertising eventually, which I did anyway, you know. But at that time, I was like, oh, but what consoled me? I was like, he's from an ad agency anyway, so it's fine. I'll see, you know what I'm saying. But then now, during our third year and also during our fourth year, you have to do, they call it an internship. So you go and spend 2 weeks at a placement of your, I've forgotten if they placed us or we had to actually really go and find places we want to intern
they
at. They
probably placed you guys because that sounds a bit more simple.
Yeah, so I ended up at the branding studio called Switch. I don't know if they're still around, but they were doing all the logos for, the SA Rugby logo. Like every single logo you've probably seen on products, they're the guys. You know what I'm saying? It's a top-notch branding studio. So I went there with my homie. We went and we interned there. We didn't like our experience because we were, when you're entitled.
Oh, yeah.
So we were cutting, doing mock-ups, and then I was like, nah, man, I want to design. I want to do some, proper stuff. I can do it, you know what I'm saying?
Why would you say you're entitled?
Nah, because I saw mock-up and cutting up tasks as beneath me.
Okay.
Because I was already freelancing. I was already working on brands, big things, you know what I'm saying? Then I'm like, no, man, I can do this. I can do this, you know what I'm saying? So obviously that mindset was already, But we spent 2 weeks there, and we actually resigned. Imagine interns from university resigning.
Now you're resigning.
And they're resigning, you know what I'm saying? But before we resigned, I saw some of their portfolio work, and there was some illustration stuff from a studio in Cape Town that was doing all this. I'm like, who are these guys? They were like, I know it's some collective in Cape Town. They do a lot of illustration work. So I go onto the website, I checked out their portfolio. I'm like, whoa.
They're doing some real shit.
These guys are doing some real shit. And at that time, they were the only illustration studio. Yeah, I think, they were the only illustration studio that was feeding the advertising industry, And
so
like
all the illustrating gigs were coming to them.
Were coming to them, and there was some hot stuff they were doing. I was like, I really need to go and mess with these guys, And then so I, at the end of that year, so obviously like on my portfolio and whatnot, and at that time, I was seeing somebody in Cape Town, so I would go and fly there and check out, do the whole long distance thing. And then I decided, no, let me phone this agency that I've been seeing.
Sure.
And just tell them, I'm in Cape Town.
I want to check you guys out.
Can I just come through? I phoned them literally, and they were like, no, come through, and show us your portfolio. So I got there, and I showed them my portfolio, like they were blown away. That same portfolio that Ogilvy guy had just seen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then I'm like, I'm into, because my portfolio was just illustration.
Sure.
Like that's what you do. That's what I used to do, which was against some of my lecturers because they're like, why do you illustrate everything, and blah blah. Yeah, I'm like, why don't you do photography? And I'm like, I can't afford those expensive cameras. All I can do is, So they used to go against that, but that's actually what I make a living off now to this day,
Right.
But I saw these guys in Cape Town, they were doing this stuff. I was like, man, I showed them my portfolio. They're like, okay, cool, man. When do you want to start? I'm like, what?
When do you want to start?
I'm like, whoa, okay, this sounds cool, I'm like, no, I've got another year of school. I'm going to do my BTech. So, like, once I'm done, can I come through?
So you managed to secure a job.
I managed to secure a job. At that time, another one. But this one is the one I wanted now.
Yes.
So they were like, no, it's cool. But in our fourth year, you have to do a month of an internship. So in your third year, you just do 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In your fourth year, you have to do a month. So I told them, I'm like, look, can I come for a month when I'm doing the internship? They're like, you're more than welcome to come through. Things were cool, in those early days, And so much so that I showed them my portfolio. They had me on record, but they had so much work that would come through that they would call me up and be like, yo, man, can you take on some work? And I'm like, yeah. More money for me, you know what I'm saying? And so I was now even freelancing with my future boss. You know what I'm saying? So they would send me some work. I'll do some work, bash it out here whilst I was in Joburg and whatnot. So that by the time I went to spend the month there, I'd already been working with them. I was already in the flow of things, You know what I'm
You already
saying?
knew how it functioned.
I knew how it functions. I was
you knew
learning
everyone's
stuff.
name, you know
Yeah.
how the business functions.
You know what I'm saying?
So they had absolutely no choice but to give you the job.
Yeah, so I spent a whole year, month
Because
there.
the most difficult thing is teaching someone a structure.
Yeah.
Oh.
You see? So, and the thing is, I'd like to think that in terms of the work, yeah, I fit in.
Yeah.
But I was the only black guy there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So you know how the
Yep.
Cape Town dynamics.
Semantics.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they did hire me. I was an intern for 2 years.
For 2 years?
Yeah, that's where you see the whole exploitation in our industry is.
Intern for 2 years?
2 years, yeah, I mean, so that was my first job.
Mm-hmm.
I moved there straight after graduation, so I already had secured that job. And then, but I mean, I worked there for 2 years, and I was
an intern for 2 years.
2 years, just for you to understand the degree of exploitation that happens there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if I should disclose what I was even earning, but
I mean, it's years ago.
98% of my salary was going to rent.
Yes.
And I had $500 to ball out every month.
Wow. That sounds like Cape Town still, though.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for the fact that I was freelancing, remember I'd been freelancing from varsity.
Oh, so those freelancing contacts are still there.
Still there. So this is what's feeding me. You know,
Right.
so that's how I'm managing to survive. But I had to suck it up and be like, I told myself, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to build my portfolio.
Yeah.
For me to work on the kind of stuff, jobs
that
or
you want
brands
to.
that I want to, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You know. And in that sense, it was an amazing time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was also a very good learning curve, because it was during that time that I realized that if I'm going to make it in this industry, I need to do it on my own terms.
Yes.
Because nobody owes me anything, and I don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to have to make it on my terms. And this came because of an opportunity. It was a big opportunity that came to me during that time, but was denied because I was working for this agency.
Right.
And they were not about letting an individual
be
shine
someone outside of the company.
Outside of the company.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? They were like, nah. It was actually it was during the World Cup, 2010. So it was actually for Adidas. I was actually going to do some big campaign stuff for Adidas football.
And they said, nah.
From 180 Amsterdam. And the agency was like, nah. This is after that agency in Amsterdam had selected they'd seen my work. Obviously, I had my Behance.
Yes.
During that time. So they plucked some illustration work from my Behance. They sent it to the agency I was working for as a a mood board.
Yes.
To say, we want this
Something
style of illustration
yes.
for this campaign.
Yes.
And then they were like, oh, we actually have this guy working here. You know? So naturally, I did the test illustrations, batched them out, sent them through to the agency in Amsterdam and Adidas, and then they were like, oh, this is actually
exactly what you're looking for.
Want. So now what we want to do is, we know you guys are a collective, you're an agency, but we want to highlight the artist. We want it to be Adidas Football X, the artist, during the first FIFA World Cup in Africa, celebrating the official soccer football.
Yeah.
The official football, the Jabulani.
And they said,
ball.
nah.
Nah.
Straight up.
Straight up. So like, first of all, the money that they're offering is not a lot. To me,
a lot for who, blood?
Because it was euros. To me, it was a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so it's not a lot for the agency.
For the agency, you know.
And for the delivery, but for you as a person, it's well enough.
More than perfect. And the exposure I was going to get from that, you know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, this is the break I need to
take it to the next level.
Take it to the next level. They're like, nah, you know. We're not going to do it. Besides, they're not offering a lot of money. And besides, we are collective. We don't believe in individual stuff. And I'm like, no, but understand that me taking on this thing is going to be a good reflection on you guys as well. Because I'm coming from you guys. I'm a product of you guys. And this is,
I stand here with you guys. I'm just alone.
They're like, nah. And I went home that night and I was like sad and I was like, yo.
This is not where you can spend the rest of your life.
No, obviously, I already knew that because obviously of the dynamics day to day. But I was sticking it out because I needed to build my portfolio.
Yeah.
And you need to cut your teeth. You need to do your time.
Yeah, you need to know when to,
there are no shortcuts to
yeah,
this thing,
no, there's no.
You need to do your time.
So you really think there's no shortcuts to this thing?
I personally believe there's no shortcuts to this thing. You need to put in. I believe that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Okay.
So for people to see you blowing up, it can't have just been
You blew up
that's
now.
Right. Nah, you've been behind the scenes, grafting,
Right.
putting in the hours. You know what I'm saying? That's what I believe.
Okay.
Maybe there are shortcuts. I just haven't discovered them yet. You know what I'm saying? But from what I know, there are no shortcuts. But anyway, that night I got home, and I realized that actually, because obviously this independence was brewing inside me since.
Yes.
It's just that I had to be employed. I had to, do the, industry thing. I was like, if I'm gonna make it in this thing, it's gonna be on my own terms.
Right.
The fact that these guys saw what I can do
means that you got something.
And they co-signed it, and they were willing to put my name in.
Means you've got something special.
I was like, I've got something.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna make it, I don't owe anybody anything. Nobody owes me anything, and I have to do it on my own terms.
So you quit?
I didn't quit then. But
At some point in time.
I realized that I need to watch.
Okay, so as you leave a structure like that, what not necessarily forced you, but what pushes you to go independent?
So I didn't go independent straight after Cape Town.
Yeah, of course.
So after Cape Town, I decided, obviously I was not earning
right.
a lot. Freelance gigs would bring in more. And I think I had the opportunity, well, not opportunity, but I I saw how much I was making the agency or the company, based on how much they were charging for my
external
skill set.
people. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not even getting crumbs of this. So surely there must be something out there that's gonna reward me for my, So naturally after I told myself, let me do 2 years here. So I did my 2 years there. So before the 2 years was up, that's when I let them know. I was like, yo guys,
I'm leaving.
I'm thinking of, going back to Joburg, obviously didn't sit down too well with him.
Yeah, because he's the lead guy.
At that time, I was an asset, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, they were like, can't just, it's only been 2 years, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, I just let them know where my headspace was at.
Sure.
So they went away. They had all of a sudden had to call up like a team building meeting where the heads of the agency went together and they brainstormed of like what's the way forward of the company and whatnot. They came back, they're like, yo man, we really don't want you to leave, So here's the deal. We understand that you want to move back to Joburg because obviously the person I was seeing at the time, she was now offered an internship in
Joburg.
I was like, I don't want to do the long distance thing. I want to be,
Yeah.
So I was like, they were like, we understand that you need to move back, but we'll set you up at home. You'll be working for us still, and you can't work for any other agencies. All the work will come through for us. We'll set you up at home, and we'll give you an extra grand.
Of course you're leaving.
So I was like, obviously I don't want to burn bridges, what I'm saying? I just want to be, ungrateful for
an extra grand. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, all right, all right. So I went, I was like, let me go marinate on it, But then luckily I'd leave days at the time. So I just went to the traffic lady. I was like, okay, can I just put in can I use a week to go to Joburg? I just want to just go
and see what's good.
Happening,
Yeah.
And at that time, I'm sending my portfolio. I'm sending my portfolio out. Agencies are latching on. Even one creative director flew to Cape Town to have coffee with me or whatever.
What?
To try and be like, yo man, come through.
So they wanted you.
So my portfolio was out there. They were seeing it. It was being thrown around, and they were like, yo, there's this guy who's leaving this illustration studio. So obviously my portfolio work is the stuff that I'm doing there. It's hot stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I came to Joburg. I just met the twins, Fatwani and Bendani.
Yeah.
So we knew each other from online. So I just met them and they were in advertising.
Yeah.
And they were like, come through, we'll show you link you up with different places where you can check out and whatnot. But you're definitely going to make more. Because I let them know my story. I was like, look, guys, this is what I'm earning.
Yeah, they pay me nothing.
I want to start. I want to start making money off this thing, you know. And they're like, yeah, no, for sure, you know. I stayed at their place, you know.
Dope.
And basically they plugged me, and so I sent my portfolio around, and it basically became okay, who's offering
what?
You
What's
know
your
what I'm saying? I was
type?
in a very comfortable, so I won't lie.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like,
You're picking and choosing.
I was like, okay, but you know, but I knew where I really wanted to go, but they weren't taking their time
Right.
to like, you know. So
the best deal wins.
You know, so eventually I ended up with Black River.
Okay.
Black River because with Black River, when I went to the interview, I get there. First of all, I was like, I see a lot of brothers, people of color.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the first, you know, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I could work
You're at the right place.
I could work in this place because already I feel more comfortable.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not so anxious as to, I'm going to get to work and I'm going to greet everybody in the office and they're just going to ignore me.
Sure.
Type of thing, you know, because those things would happen. You
Yes,
know what I'm saying?
yes.
And so already that was that. And then the interview happened in such a way that I was now asking them a whole lot of questions. They weren't interviewing me. So that's how comfortable
You were in that
things-
space.
In that space, you know?
Right.
So when I got back to Cape Town, I was like, okay, cool. Let me see.
You're leaving.
I was already leaving, you know what I'm saying? But I was like, okay, who's gonna? There was the place I really wanted to go to. Then there was Black River.
Sure.
You know. So I was like, okay, let's play this out. But then when I got back to Cape Town, I told the guys, I was like, okay, guys, yo, man, I thought about that offer. You know, I marinated on it for a while, and yeah, it's cool, but I'm looking to join a different space now altogether, because right now what we're doing is we're service providers to the advertising agency industry. I want to be creating
Sure.
ideas. I want to be creating I want
The
I want to
direction.
be coming up with concepts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I studied design after all, but I haven't used that thinking as much, you know.
Right.
So I put it to them very like softly in that sense that I'm leaving,
leaving.
guys, but
Can't change my
this
mind.
is, yeah, you know. So I just told them, like, look, it's not that I don't want your offer. I didn't want the offer, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm
like,
leaving.
I want to try this out. I'm still so young, you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So like, I want to try this out and see if it works for me, you know.
And then you leave.
My last 2 weeks, they were hell.
Of course.
Hell.
Because you're leaving.
I think I was fighting with somebody almost every day.
Of course.
You
Of
know what I
course.
mean? They'll pick fights, and I'm just like, yo, man, I'm bouncing.
Like,
you
I
know?
really just want to understand, like, your mental independent transition. You know what I mean?
So, coming back this side, I spent almost 2 years at Black River.
Okay.
But then during that time, I let them know. I was like, okay, guys, I do a lot of freelance work. You know, that's my thing. You know what I'm saying? And I know you guys are pure above the line, you know, advertising agency. This is what, you know, you're hiring me to be an art director. You know, I get that. But I'm also going to be doing stuff on the side. You're going to be hearing my name possibly pop up here and there. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
don't be surprised.
So, like, what are you saying? They're like, no, we encourage that. Then I'm like, okay, if you guys are cool with that,
Let's go.
yeah, let's go. So, I had my 9 to 5 as an art director, but I was also, you know, doing stuff on the
Yeah.
side, you know what I'm saying? But it weighed in on me because I was, by the time, you know, at the agency, I got frustrated, you know, I wasn't doing very inspiring stuff for me, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Only because of the brands we were working on there.
Yeah.
I think the only exciting brand was Nando's,
Okay.
because that's at least we could,
There's freedom.
we
Yeah.
could push the bond, and everything else was very you know,
Straightforward.
straightforward. There's a CI to doing this, and you can't. And I'm an artist, you know what I'm saying? I want to come up with crazy ideas of, you know,
Yeah. I get you.
building, you know, like.
So I'm
weird
assuming the
stuff.
freelancing should pushed you,
It pushed me, like, so the more I was freelancing, the more I was getting brands to.
and now you're getting more
Like,
money.
you know,
Then you're not getting to a point where you have to decide who's getting the most time.
Yeah, you see, and I literally would wake up every morning and be like, why am I going to?
What's the point?
You know what I'm saying? And it took somebody who I was, you know, with at the time to tell me, yo, man, you know, you're stupid. Like, you're fueling somebody else's dream. You're a battery for. In fact, I think Malum Coolcat is the one who said that we're just batteries for a
Corporate.
system, the corporate
Yeah.
system, you know, like. And she told me, she's like, you know, you're fueling somebody else's dream. Yet you've got this set of skills that you clearly can do this on your own. Why are you still?
Right.
And I thought about it long and hard, and I was like, man, she's actually got a point. Like, why am I?
If you can't do it alone.
You know what I'm saying? So, but the thing is, what pushed me to actually just like resign was, I told the boss there at the time, I was like, okay, can I introduce like an illustration, set up within the agency that I will run? I'll obviously go around with my portfolio and fish for work, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to start up because I'm not enjoying the work that I'm doing.
Right.
It's not
you.
So at least if I can, and the thing is, I love this place, you know what I'm saying? You guys are cool, you
so
know
it's not that I don't fuck with you guys, I'm
comfortable,
just
you know what I'm
not
saying?
happy.
But I'm just like not motivated, like
Sure.
creatively I'm not,
You're not there.
in my groove is not, you know what I'm saying? Then he was like, yeah, no, I like that idea, it sounds cool,
Sure.
Then I'm like, yeah, no, go pitch it to your partners and blah, 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 And then I think the next week I come back to the agency and I see this one dude, white dude, that I used to work with in Cape Town. He's quite a top designer, good at his stuff. And he's chilling there in the boardroom. So I'm like, hey, yo, homie, what's good? It's been a long time, I'm saying, how you, like, what you doing here, And he's like, no.
Offering him a job.
Your boss hit me up, he asked me to come and head up like an illustration, set up. And I'm like, oh, for real? And I'm like, damn.
That's weird.
Then that's when I knew that I'm out.
Yeah, you are. They're already finding a replacement, bro.
Yeah, like I knew I'm like, no, let me.
They don't have time for all of you.
You know what I'm saying? So the only reason I'd stayed so long is because my copywriter that I was paired up with, Big Fucking Gun.
Yes.
Yeah, so Onhlanhla, he was my copywriter. And I liked the idea that, I liked how we worked together, that we were the only purely black team.
Right.
The other teams, it was like maybe a black dude with a white girl, Indian guy with, it was a mix, you know what I'm saying? But me and him were like, so our insights, I felt, were like
authentic
and rich, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the only reason I stayed so long, But when that incident happened,
you were just like, okay.
I went to him and I was like, I am a man.
That's the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't have to be here.
I'm like, I literally told him, I'm like, the reason I stayed so long was because of obviously we became homies, you know what I'm saying? We worked well together, you know what I'm saying? And at that time, I was like 26, 27. I was like, man, I've still got years in me.
Ahead of you.
Ahead of me, And at that time, he had a kid.
Right.
He was married. I'm like, I get you. Like,
you gotta be safe.
You gotta be safe. I'm gonna be a cowboy.
I'm gonna ride it out.
I'm gonna get on my horse and
so now you go independent.
And then like I resigned then, and I went independent, man. And the nice thing about me going independent was I was so fortunate that the work was there waiting for me.
Right.
So much so that the first job that I quoted on after leaving was triple my salary.
Right.
And they were like, okay, cool.
Let's go.
Like, what, you're willing to pay me this much?
For that?
For that?
Crazy.
Like, let's go.
So what challenges have you encountered being independent, in summary?
I think, well, the first one, my foreign status.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm an immigrant here.
Yeah.
Means that a lot of opportunities that I could have gotten are more reserved for.
Really?
Yeah, no, I've had.
So it even happens like in your line of work?
Yeah, totally. Like it's one of the things that comes part and parcel with being an immigrant in a space, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's gonna be harder for you to break down certain doors.
Right.
Than it is.
And navigate it. And navigate it.
And navigate it.
Right.
I'm still navigating it to this day because a lot of people don't know this, but I'm still trying to get permanent residency.
Right. I remember we've been talking about
We've been talking about that, you know what I'm saying?
Still going back and forth.
It's a struggle.
Still going back and forth.
It's so.
It's been like what, 4 years, 5 years?
More than, man. More than I'm at a point now when I'm even considering relocating like altogether.
Okay.
And it's a pity because I feel like I've spent so much time cultivating and
building something solid.
And giving into the culture of art and design
in South Africa.
And like this is my second home. Like
it is.
My whole adulthood
was spent here.
I came here when I was 20.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know any other
I don't know anything else outside
I don't
of
know
this.
anything else outside this. I mean, my formative years, I was a teenager. You know,
Cool.
you can't really, but my years that count,
Your building was
my
done
building
here.
has all been here. So that's how. A lot of people don't know this because it looks like,
Yeah.
you know.
So now,
And-
you're telling me that challenge number, what's the second challenge?
Second challenge is maintaining discipline.
Okay.
Because maintaining discipline means that you need to be very, it's something that we're not taught, because unfortunately, I mean, I hate to say this, but as black folk, our relationship with money is still something very foreign, because we grew up not having it. You know, in most cases, it's still the case. We're still growing up without it. So much so that our financial literacy is not
On par.
with our counterparts. That's why, you know, a lot of us will start something, rise so quickly,
Go back
but fall
down.
as quick, you know.
Because we don't maintain.
So we that's one of the challenges, that discipline and being able to maintain.
Right.
Like, I tell a lot of people I've been independent for 11 years.
Right.
And it's always like, that's the first reaction. It's like, how? Like, that's 11 years, that's a long time. And I'm not saying that it's been rosy, but I think the discipline that I've had and my relationship with money and
Has been what allows you.
it's been a challenge getting to that stage, because it's been a lot of trial and error,
Right.
you know.
It's never
It's
linear.
never, you know, and this is not anything I was taught.
Right.
You know, I don't come from a family of
You're
money.
learning it as it goes.
I'm learning this. It goes, you know what I'm saying? But I think one thing that I gained from my mother is that entrepreneurial
Spirit.
flair, you know, that spirit, that go-getting, like, belief in myself that, you know what, I can do this thing, you know?
I'm gonna make it work.
I'm going to make it work. Because the thing is, what I did was, when I was resigning from my second job, the first thing I did was, like, I phoned her and I told her, like, yo, ma, I'm not happy. Like, this job, like, and she was like, okay. Because the thing is, you know, me and my little brother, we support our parents, you know what I'm saying? And along with our other siblings and stuff. So it's like, I was like, I'm going to quit my job, you know? And she says, man, like, if that's what you feel in your heart,
Do it.
do it, you know? And I think because I got her blessing,
You did it.
that's the only reason I've been able to still,
Right.
you know, be, you know, to thrive, or be able
Been
to
independent for
still
11 years. Yeah.
you know. And I solely believe that's because I got her blessing. She told me, she's like, no, because I told her, I was like, look, man, like, that comfort of that safe, every month, me being able to do this for you and whatnot, I'm not sure about it if I,
Be able to do
you
the
know.
same. Right.
And she's like, no, if that's what you want in your heart, if that's what you believe, then go for it.
Dope.
So I had a blessing, and it's been like this. It's not a smooth,
Of course, nothing is
it's
linear
not a
in life.
smooth hill, you know.
So what's the third challenge?
Third challenge, so what did I say? Discipline. And
Discipline.
so I think the third challenge is, I guess, acceptance and being assimilated within because you're gonna ruffle up a lot of feathers coming into a space that has gatekeepers and already has its players, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you come in to offer this,
Right.
you know, this thing that you have, you know. So I guess it's been challenging just being accepted,
Okay.
in the sense that there is a guy who, I think, for me, like, when I first started out, I was probably amongst one of the first guys to have, you know, those brand partnerships with, like, artists.
Okay.
And it's something that's been happening overseas for
Oh wow.
a while, but here it was always reserved for the ad agency or the illustration studio, or the, you know, it was really
Individual thing.
Woolworths is partnering with, you know,
I get you.
this individual. So when I was first starting out, that wasn't happening.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think in a way, you know, it's one of the doors that I busted down, you know, because after that, like, it's.
So you're
I was
basically an
able to
OG.
look and see,
You're an OG.
I've accepted that title now,
Yeah, nah, you're an OG.
although I was very reluctant.
Nah, you're an OG.
But And I think it's only because if I look at the years that I've been in the game, and if I look at who's come up, afterwards, I'm like, wow, this is actually dope.
It is.
Like so many guys are able to actually
do this.
Yeah. And before it was kind of unheard of, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
I told you before, like I was telling Brother Man here, that people would see my work and they thought I was a white dude.
Right.
Because they wouldn't associate that kind of work
with someone of color.
You know what I'm saying? But look how many guys are
of color are killing it right now. They're killing it.
And for me, I think
ridiculously so.
For me, I think that's where I can say I'm successful, because for me, success, everybody measures success in a different way.
Yeah, it's
but
objective.
For me, it's like, who have I been able to inspire? And who have I been able to, open doors for? And, so for me, that's how I see it. I'm like, yo, this was actually a good move.
Cool.
Because now I see everybody who's like come up and is doing something.
Completely different type of people.
Amazing. And it's like, it's not just restricted to what I was doing, like just illustration. It's across.
It's cross-populated. Like, it's so crazy.
And it's also the reason why I stayed in the continent, because I was at a stage at one point where I actually wanted to, because obviously when you're young and your eyes are like,
you want to go to different places.
You want to go to different places, also because of the industry. You've got your Meccas, you've got your New York, you've got your Amsterdam, you've got your, Singapore. These are all places where design is like,
it's booming.
Big, it's booming. And you're like, I want to be there, I want to go there, But then I thought about it, I was like, why would I want to go and add value to a place that's not my home?
Right.
Especially because I can see something is brewing.
At home.
At home,
Yeah.
And this is like your 2009, 2010, like it was before things are the way they are now.
Yeah.
Now if you look everywhere and anywhere,
it's booming.
You see your guys are on billboards, like guys
it's
are
booming.
Doing amazing stuff.
It's booming right now.
And but if I think back then, it was I chose to stick around because I was like, I know there's something brewing, and I want to experience it.
Right.
And even more than just experiencing, I want to be part of it.
Right.
And more than just being part of it, I want to contribute to it, And 10
that's what it's
years
been.
Later,
that's what it is.
That's where we're at, man.
So we're at the end of the show, or this episode. We have this thing called the word of the day. It's not specifically a word. It's a phrase or something you live by and something that has carried you as a person. And what's your word of the day?
So my word of the day, I guess it's a philosophy I've lived by throughout my whole career, whether it's been the trajectory or the maintaining of it. And I think it's two words actually. So it's keep going. Because I believe that the sky is the limit in terms of what you can actually achieve, and stuff. So I think the more you keep going, you keep at it, you stay true to your calling, you know what I mean, and the results will speak for themselves. So keep going.
Cool. From my man's on the right, keep going. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Dead Radio. From your man, Bang is Dead, we're out.
And you're live on Dead Radio.